All right, so you were given an assignment to take assignment 13, what you've done in assignment 13, or my solution for assignment 13, and instead of using passing by ref, you would create functions that will return a value. And so that was your somewhat challenging assignment for this week. I want to walk through the solution for this and make sure you're getting this all the way through. Again, my solution might be different than your solution. There's no one way of writing a function, there's probably a couple different things you need to do in these functions. It's kind of confusing for you. But hopefully you gave it a good shot, and hopefully this video will help you clear some of your confusion up if you have any. Okay? So what I did here is I'm going to give you the solution here and a couple of things I want you to look at. Where I would have started with this problem? Well, I would have taken the Visio that we had and start recognizing where the possibility of functions would actually work. And then in doing so, also use my design solution along with my Visio to help me do that. Okay, excuse me. Then what I want to do is I'm going to go out, I'm going to show you our assignment 13 solution, walk through that by passing by ref, and then show you how I updated it with my version of the functions I would actually have done in here. Okay? So with that said, once again, using this hierarchy here, again, my design's everything to me, where I can sit back and very easily start recognizing. How I set things up, once again, is I have a main routine, I got to get and validate, I have a calculate travel expenses. Calculate travel expenses is sort of my higher level for all my calculations. I'm not going to really do much in here. I'm really just going to call these things here, okay? Based upon that, since I'm passing down, I need to get what I want to say, I need to get the totals in my main routine to pass it to my display. So in doing that, going down here, I'm going to pass down a bunch of empty boxes. And since I need to return more than one value, I'm going to have to pass them down by ref. Keep that in mind again. We kind of talked about this previously in our first video here, but I will show you how I did it this way and possibly what you have to do with other languages that don't support by ref, okay? Once again, I did not want you to do anything with the validates. I just think, though, later on, once you get the idea of a function, I think it's good to go back and see how you can use functions for your validation. But right now, I don't want to make this any more complicated than it needs to be. So let's keep this as simple as possible. Right now, keep your validation as it is, passing by refs. And again, keep doing that for the rest of this course. The calculate travel expenses then is going to call this. So I'm going to call down and get my calculate total costs. Well, calculate total costs is one thing only. So I'm going to pass back the total cost to here, right? That's an opportunity for a function. In this case, I'm going to be passing back to calculate the management responsible. That's one thing. That could be a function. Calculate non-management responsible, same thing, one thing. And finally, calculate the reimbursement. That would be one thing. So these all could be functions. Down here, I'm calculating air responsible, lodging responsible, and food responsible in 3 different procedures. In this case, instead of passing down by ref, I could return those answers, and thus it could be a function. So all of these can be replaced with functions instead of passing down empty buckets and populating them, right? Okay, basically eliminating the possibility of by ref. That's the whole idea of a function in this case. So that's where I would have gone with this. Looking at my design, obviously I kind of have that broken up. And so for the most part, I don't really need to do too much with this design. Everything will remain the same, even with functions. I'm not updating the logic. I'm just making them functions versus procedures. So everything I did in regards to my how I broke things up, everything in regards to my test cases and so on, all remain the same. Pretty cool. All right. So the answer is okay. Instead of passing down buckets to these things by ref, okay, the bucket to calculate the total cost, I'm going to return it. So function, function, function. So let's go down here and look at this real fast. So let's go, let's see, which one do I have here? Make sure I have the right one. I don't. Okay, of course I don't. So how we wrote this originally was, let's get down once again to calculate travel expenses. Okay, I'm going to go down here and find, I'm passing up all the validation here. And calculate travel expenses, I used to call calculate travel costs, and I would pass DBL total costs. In doing so, I would receive DBL total costs by ref. See it right there? Okay. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. DBL total cost by ref right here. And I would change that value. And when it came back, it was changed because I passed it and received it by ref. Same thing for all these here. As you see here, I passed down empty buckets. In this case, responsible to either the management responsible or the non-management responsible. So I passed down that empty bucket and received it by ref as soon as we find it right there. Okay. These then called calculate air responsible, calculate food responsible, calculate lodging responsible. Same thing for both. And as you see, I also received that responsible by ref for each one of those. See how that worked? Okay. And I'm adding to it in this case. So I might need to do a little bit of something different with functions since this was accumulating. I was passing down a value and accumulating. How can I do that with a function? A couple different ways. It would be interesting to see how you guys attack that. Okay. But I'm going to show you how I did it. All right. And then and then the last one was reimbursement, same type of thing. I have my reimbursement by ref, and I'm going to populate that and send it back. So this is how we did it by ref prior to learning about functions. So how would I change this? So let's go ahead and now look at how I did this with a function, okay? And so once again, we start right here. I didn't really change anything on my button click. And once again, I didn't touch my validation. By travel expenses, though, I remain the same, meaning I pass down all these empty pieces, total costs, reimbursement, and responsible. Those three buckets right there. And I had to receive them by ref because I could not make travel expenses a function because a function only returns one value. So in this case, I could not have done that. Okay? You might say, well, what happens when we get to Python, Bob? What would you do with that? Well, interesting enough, in Python, you could actually return multiple values in a function, which is really interesting to that language. So that would actually solve the situation in this case. I can make this a function and return those multiple values, thus not having to deal with by ref. Or I could modify calling calculate travel expenses just to one thing and put all of these functions, what do I say? Oops, you guys get dizzy probably trying to follow me. I can put all of this up there in my main routine. I really don't like doing that because I really like this category called calculate travel expenses that it tells the story. I'm calculating the total costs. If it's management, I'm doing this. If it's not, I'm doing that. And then I'm going to reimbursement. I like that breakdown. I don't like all that sitting up in the main routine. So again, for Python, it doesn't support by ref. It does support multiple. It does support returning multiple values, where in VB it does not. So in VB, I would continue with using by ref in this case, right there, just for that one. Does that make sense? Okay. Everything else, though, as I said, on down based on my structure chart, all of these are going to turn into functions. And let's watch how I did that. So DBL total cost, as you see, I don't pass or receive anything by ref. I'm just going to pass down by val the food, the air, the food, and the lodging that we received by val, basically as inputs. Okay, I'm going to receive those three, calculate, calculate total costs. It's going to add those three together and return the sum to the left-hand side of the equal sign, thus eliminating the need to pass that variable down. Make sense? If it's management, I'm calculating management responsible or calculating management non-management responsible. We'll get to those. And so let's go look at one of them. We don't have to look at both of them. Let's go look at one of them. I did change this around a little bit. Let's go look and compare once again to this one. In this case here, I have 3 calculates because I keep passing responsible and I'm going to accumulate in each one. Not quite what I wanted in this case because I would have to keep passing things down by ref. It wouldn't work with functions that way. See how this is? It's working because I'm passing down by ref, by val, I'm sorry, let me get it straight. I'm passing DBL responsible by ref each time, and I am constantly changing it. Not going to work with a function, so I have to change things around a little bit. This may have been a little confusing on how you go about doing it, but don't let it be. Once again, do what you need to do. How I solved it was this way. I basically said, as soon as I get to the right program, I'm going to declare 3 new local variables. These are local variables to this function and this function only, where I'm going to calculate error responsible. As you see, all I do now is pass down error and the actual amount that the management gets. Okay? Did the same thing for both, and all I'm doing is returning error. If it's greater than this, error minus error diem. Okay? And that's the responsible piece. Does that make sense? So I did it for one for air, one for food, and one for responsible. So I basically created these 3 here, brought them all back separately, then added them all together versus accumulating when I did it by ref. No big deal, just a couple of local variables. Does that make sense? Did the exact same thing for calculate non-management. All right. So yeah, you can do things differently. I mean, so there's a good benefit of a function. So with that said, these are just local variables. They'll be gone as soon as I hit the end function. Once I did my calculate, here's all my calculate response. Air responsible, food responsible, and lodging responsible. Those all look a little bit the same. The only thing I did is put return instead of creating a new variable in each one of those. Okay, I'm just returning the difference of all that if it was greater than the amount they were allowed. Make sense? Calculate total reimbursement, total cost minus total responsible, and there it is. Everything then returns back to here. In this case, this, and this were all changed based upon them being passed by ref, and now they are allowed. They are now available to be displayed. Okay? So again, I couldn't really make this a function because I'm passing back 3 things. And so since I'm passing back 3 things, I kept it by ref. I hope that makes sense. But everything else, all different on down. As you see, there's no more by ref all the way down, as you see in each of those signatures, only by val. Only by val, because I keep passing down the data and I return the answer, and thus a function. Couple of things I've seen students do. They forget to do, I actually forgot to do one right. That was a private sub. No, I didn't. As double, make sure you give your function a data type. You could probably get away with not doing it. Then what's going to happen is it's going to return as a data type. It's called object, which means it's very vague. And now you're letting the computer implicitly determine what the data type should be. Always do that piece what I told you before. Give the returning function a data type, okay? And that way you always know explicitly what it should be, meaning the programmer has control over it. Okay? Take a look at this solution. I would recommend downloading it. Compare the two, since I gave you both once again. Walk through it and make sure you understand how to utilize a function. Once again, I know we're getting late into the semester and you're getting tired of learning, your head's about ready to blow up. I get it. Trust me, I get it. But understanding functions is really important, and it's not too hard. Just keep it simple and you'll be fine. You don't have to practice them more and more, and you'll have multiple times opportunities to practice, not in the rest of this course and also in subsequent courses, okay? So just try to your best to learn what this is all about. Get a couple of them working, keep them simple, and you'll do fine.